Hello everyone! Welcome back to my channel. I've been gone for a while, as you may have noticed. I'm not going to apologise for it, it's just life. Yeah, and this has been a very crazy, ridiculous year for me. So I've just not had time, sometimes not had motivation to do any videos or anything. But we're back and hopefully we'll be a bit more consistent this time. We'll see. I'd really like to do more videos, like more regularly going forwards, but really I'm just a go with the flow kind of person, so we'll see if that goes with the flow. Like I said, this year's been absolutely ridiculous for me. Some of you will know some bits of it and some of you won't know any of it and blah 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 blah. But I just wanted to make a video like explaining all that's happened, why there's been no videos really, where I've been. I don't want this to be a kind of like, oh woe was me video. Definitely not intended to garner attention or sympathies or whatever. It's just to let you know what's been happening. Most of it's pants, if I'm honest. But yeah, I think it's really important that people on the internet are honest about what we portray. It's not all happy clappy rainbows and roses all the time, and shit goes wrong sometimes. So I think it's really important to be honest with things the way they are. Personally, I always wanted this to be authentic and real me, she says, with like tons of not her own hair in. But yeah, to be perfectly honest, this year has been one of the worst years I can remember in my life. Without further ado, let me talk you through it. It does end on a positive note, so stick with me if you can, or just skip to the end if you only want the positive bit. Lots of you watched my vlogs from the Olympics last year, and will know that I was not in a particularly good place either going into those games or coming out of them again. That headspace I was in after the games hadn't really gone away yet, I'm afraid. If you watch my other videos, then you'll know what's happened really up until the end of last year. So we'll start in January, and I'm going to do a bit of a good bad list, because there's a lot. It's a lot. I moved to Leith in January. I love it here. It's so great. I've really enjoyed living here. It's a really cool place to be. It's pretty close to the place I work. Like, it's really close to training. I have a beach that I can run to or walk to that's like just along the road. Arthur's Seat is like walking distance from here, so I could go up Arthur's Seat if I want to. The city centre's not that far away. It's like half an hour on a bus or a 40-minute walk or something. So it's not that far away. I just really love living here. I can see the water out my window, which really helps me. So yeah, that was a positive at least to start on. That was just great. Gets a bit worse from here, if I'm honest. At the very start of the year, on day 3, I think it was the 3rd we started, I started a lifeguarding course in the hopes to become a qualified lifeguard and go get a job and earn some extra cash. It was going fine. But I got ill on the second last day. The sort of I think the test was on the Saturday, and I was ill on the Thursday, and then couldn't go in on the Friday, and then subsequently didn't get to do my exam. Pretty annoyed about. So there's one. Also in January, a lot of our like competitions and stuff, we normally go to Innsbruck and Munich at the end of January, those were cancelled, I think due to COVID still. But a lot of my uni classes and stuff were still online, even though we'd been told they might be in person. So all in all, January, it wasn't that bad, but it was just a bit annoying. I was supposed to go to Cairo for the World Cup in February, but I got COVID. That's 2. Per Mike was supposed to come up and do some training. He did come up, and he did manage to get a couple of days of training before I infected him. But yeah, I managed to give him COVID, so he got stuck with me for 2 weeks, and we were both actually very ill. We had a really bad case of COVID, but that meant I didn't get to go to the World Cup. We did watch all of the MCU movies and all of the Pirates of the Caribbean movies, so silver linings, I guess. But yeah, I was quite ill. I had a cold for about 5 days before I tested positive, and then I was ill for about 2 weeks while testing positive, and then 2 weeks or so after that, before the sort of coughing disappeared. So I was ill for quite a while. Alongside this, I've been struggling with a back problem since kind of November last year. It was kind of on and off. It got better around Christmas time last year and then got worse again in January. COVID made that 100 times worse. I think with all the coughing and like not being able to move or exercise, it just like got worse and worse. So just as I was getting over COVID, that back injury put me out of action really. Couldn't shoot prone. I could barely shoot standing. I couldn't like extend my spine or flex it. I couldn't rotate. I just like, my back was really, really bad. I couldn't move. So I managed to shoot the Scottish air gun, having had, I think, the grand total of 2 days training. I then went to the Europeans in Norway with the grand total of 3 days training since the Olympics. So needless to say, that did not go well. It was a very cool venue though. I don't know if any of you'd seen that, but that's the biggest range I've ever seen. Now I'm scraping the barrel a bit here because finding positive things to put on this list is quite tricky. It was my birthday in March. Yeah, I went out for dinner with a friend. There was supposed to be lots of us, but most people bailed on the day because they forgot. Hey-ho. So yeah, I went out for dinner with a friend and that was that, and it was nice. But yeah, I had a birthday. April was pretty uneventful, also highly stressful. Because of the aforementioned COVID, I had to bump all of my university assignments. I got extensions for them all, but it meant they were all due all at the same time, right before my exams started. So I found sort of April into May incredibly stressful from a sort of trying to get those finished while studying for the exams that were just coming up. I got them all in the end. I did the exams, I actually did pretty well in my exams, I'm quite happy. May was pretty good. After I'd done my exams, I got my hair extensions put in. I went to LA with Holly. There's a whole other vlog for that. If you want to know about LA, there's a vlog. So May was actually like pretty decent. I went straight to Baku. I think I was home for 2 days or something after we got back from LA. Went to Baku because the ISSF changed the dates for the World Cup quite late on. It meant I missed the air rifle because I was still on holiday, so I only shot the 3P. Up until this point, I think I had 3P training sessions since the Olympics before going out to that World Cup. It was not amazing, it wasn't really awful, it was kind of middle of the road. I feel like technically I've been shooting really well, but I've kind of just forgotten how to perform really, I guess, which I find really frustrating because that's the bit that I've always like prided myself on. It's the bit that I've always felt I was really good at. But yeah, so like technically I was still shooting good, but just didn't really know what I was doing under pressure, I guess. I started my dissertation around about this time as well, which in general was a really, really horrible and stressful thing to do. I know everybody says that about their dissertation, and every time I'm like, no, if you're organised enough, it's totally fine. And it would be, if you were organised enough, which I'm not. The communication was quite different to what I was used to. Certainly my undergraduate, when I did the dissertation, I was kind of like, here's your brief, go and do it, and left to my own devices really. This one was a lot different. I was required to do more things and different things that I don't think was expressed very well to begin with. So I was quite like on the back foot from the get-go, and I didn't get off on the best foot with my supervisor. So like the start of the dissertation I found quite tricky. About a week after I got back from Baku, I was supposed to be going to the Danish Masters, but I had a ovarian cyst rupture. So I ended up in the hospital to have that treated. Nothing major, I didn't have surgery or anything, but I had that, which meant I then couldn't go to the Danish Masters. Also missed out on another 2 weeks of training before the Changwon World Cup. The cyst itself actually wasn't like too bad. The treatment for it was a lot worse, and is actually like the side effects from that treatment have been plaguing me ever since. Went to Changwon at the start of July. Shot the air rifle. The air rifle actually, like for the most part, went pretty well. I did shoot the wall, as some of you will have seen. I burnt my finger on a rice dish the day before and had like the world's tiniest blister on the end of my finger. But I think because it was numb and because it was slightly raised, it just like, you know, that proprioception that you normally just know where your body is. Well, apparently I didn't know where this finger was, and I flicked the trigger as I was closing the breech. So I shot the wall. That's a miss. That's 10 points gone. So there was no coming back from that, unfortunately. I think I tried to deal with it pretty well. I think I did deal with it reasonably well. The rest of the match actually was okay. So in general, I was quite happy with how that went. The 3P again, technically I guess I was shooting pretty well. I just didn't feel like myself. I didn't really know what I was doing in terms of wind. Yeah, I just didn't really know how to perform again, which is frustrating. Like it'd been about a year since the Olympics and I just like forgotten what it is I do. August had me down in Birmingham for the Commonwealth Games. I was there as an athlete mentor for Team Scotland, mentoring some of the athletes and coaches who are probably going to make the team for the next games in Victoria. That was great. They had the most lovely group. They were so enthusiastic, so keen. They really wanted to like learn and share and like learn from each other and just like experience stuff. So having a group, like a good group like that is always really helpful. That was my first role as a sort of leader in a leadership role. I certainly have learned a lot from that experience. Some things didn't go very well, some things were fine, but yeah, certainly I've learned and taken a lot from that experience if I was ever going to be in a leadership role like that again. So by this point in the year, I think everything that had gone on, everything that was still going on, I guess, all just got a wee bit too much for me. And my mental health really took a nosedive. About a week after I came back from Birmingham, I had what I'm describing as a mental breakdown, although I've been told that I'm not allowed to use that term because some people have real mental breakdowns. The pile of shit just got too big and it toppled. I'd been seeing somebody as well. This was definitely not the cause of the mental breakdown, but that relationship ended, which didn't really help. I had about a week where I could not function. I was in bed for about a week, just totally unable to do anything. I emailed my head of year and said, I can't do this dissertation, I'll just take the diploma like I did last year and not graduate with the masters, just take the diploma and I'm not going to do the dissertation. And emailed my supervisor as well to say the same thing. Actually like messaged my boss as well to say like, does it matter to you if I have this master's degree or can I just scrap it? Clearly these were red flags to many people because I got lots of messages back being like, don't do it, don't do it. It's only 2 more weeks of your life, like we can get you through this. I went into training to see my dad and I didn't even make it through the door before I burst into tears and was like, I can't do it. So yeah, I had a lot of support around me to get me through to the end of the dissertation. I kind of used it as a distraction for the 2 weeks before I managed to see somebody about my brain. Yeah, so it was all just a bit of a mess really. As it turns out, this was the treatment for that ovarian cyst. This had mucked up my hormones so badly that that's what happened. It was just like a major hormone imbalance, and I'm fine now. And I got through to the end of the dissertation. It is potentially the shoddiest piece of work I have ever submitted, but it did pass, and I passed and I got my degree. So, silver linings. I've had tons of like illnesses and injuries over the years with like my arthritis and well, being a shooter and things like that. And normally I find like physical injuries they're annoying but they're easy enough to deal with. I kind of just ignore them until they go away. Or you can like you do your physio exercises and you work to try and fix them. This brain thing was completely knocked me completely out of it. Because you can't just like ignore pain in your brain because it's not pain. I realise this is probably like too much information for most people. It's very much oversharing, but I think it's quite important that we talk about these things. I think a lot of people really struggle with mood swings that are related to hormones that we don't really talk about or they don't really know about, and they get labelled as being crazy. I thought it was crazy, but it's just something else that we have to deal with as people, and I think it's really important that we talk about it so that if somebody else is experiencing this and maybe they think they're crazy, they can hear this and be like, oh, it's not just me, and maybe like go and ask the right questions of the right person. I don't know, but I definitely think it's important for us to like chat about these things. With that, we're into September. I'm done with uni. I wasn't physically ill, so I managed to do a bit of training finally. We went to the Europeans in Poland. Again, I'd done some training by this point, not a huge amount and not enough, but it didn't go well. I've really been struggling this year. I know I've not done an awful lot of training, but technically I'm still shooting really well, so the frustrating part is not being able to perform. That's never something I've had issues with really before. Just like not really understanding what's going on, not knowing. It's been a real struggle for me, and it's definitely made me question whether I should continue in sport in general. I always said to myself, I always promised myself if I stopped enjoying it, I'd stop doing it. It's not worth doing anything that you don't enjoy. Life's too short for that. There's always going to be days here and there where you're like, I can't be bothered training or whatever. There's always going to be some bad days, but as long as the good ones outweigh the bad ones, then that's fine. For me, this year, I've had so many times where I've not wanted to go to training, even though I've hardly done any. I've not wanted to go and shoot or shoot competitions because I know it's not going to go well, because I've no idea what I'm doing, I don't have any confidence, and that was just making it really, really unenjoyable. I have really questioned whether or not to continue in the sport. I'd like to have like a proper season back, I guess. I'd fully intended for this to be a proper season back after the sort of COVID pandemics type stuff, but as you've heard, it's been a bit of a non-starter for me. But yeah, I would like to go and do a normal season and remember what the sport's actually supposed to be like. But yeah, it's all changed, and I guess we all have to decide how much change is too much change. I certainly came away from the Europeans thinking that World Champs would quite possibly be my last competition, that I might retire after that. On a positive note, some of you will have seen that I've started my own business. I'm working towards becoming a qualified personal trainer, and as part of that course I became a qualified sports nutrition advisor. I've started working as that with my personal trainer Andy at Bamboo GST while I continue working towards getting actually qualified. I'm actually really excited about this next step for me. I've loved the health and fitness stuff that I've been exposed to through being an athlete. I guess as athletes we're in this like tiny 1% of performance sport, but I think like all of the health and fitness and well-being stuff that I've been exposed to over the last 10 years, I absolutely love it, and I think like more people who aren't elite athletes should be exposed to it. So I really do want to work in this industry. I've also started my yoga teacher training, which is something I have been dead keen to do for absolute years. Actually, since I've started going to yoga, I always wanted to do my yoga teacher training. So I've just started doing that as well. Andy and Hamish and I went down to the Arnold Sports Festival in Birmingham a few weeks ago, probably a month ago now, which was just mad. Like, I've never been to anything like that before. It was simultaneously like the top of the fitness industry and the worst of the fitness industry. Like, walking around, there's all these like supplements for sale, energy drinks and stuff, and like I have no idea what the regulations and stuff are, but like all of the anti-doping education that's been drilled into me for the last like 8 to 10 years, it was just like screaming at me. It was like, danger, danger, just like so much stuff there. I'd never seen bodybuilding in person before, which was just mad. They had a huge CrossFit competition. Yeah, it was just like, I've never seen anything like that before. It was crazy. It was so busy, and there were so many like really jacked people. That I was just like, what? But yeah, it was actually it was fun. It was good. Dad and I went to Switzerland and to Italy at the end of September, start of October, for some training, pre-world training camp. We went to Switzerland, we went to the Grunig factory, which was my first visit there. It was really lovely. It was nice to meet all the faces that go with the email addresses that I message. And like they gave me a wee tour of the factory, which was awesome. Serviced my rifles and everything, so we're all good to go. And then we went training in Brunig, which is just down the road, I guess, to do some primarily 300 metre training, because in Britain there's not really anywhere for me to do that. Technically there's Bisley, but there's basically like, I think there's only 5 days or something during the year that we're allowed to use it, and sometimes it's only a few days before that we actually find out that it's available. So practically there is nowhere in Britain to train 300 metre, so we went to Brunig and trained there. I also did a bit of air gun and a tiny bit of kneeling, I think, but we're mostly there to shoot the big bore, which was good. From there we went back to Bologna to have a training camp with the Italians and the Germans. And if you're starting to notice a pattern at this point, you would be right in guessing that it did not go well. I got bitten by a ton of mosquitoes through my leggings on the first day, and I had an allergic reaction to that, which set off my arthritis. So most of the rest of the training camp, we were only there for 3 days, but most of the rest of the training camp, I couldn't shoot kneeling because I couldn't bend my knee properly. And I was shooting standing with bent knees. It went down pretty quickly when I got back. I didn't need any injections or anything, so there wasn't a really bad flare. They just put me out for the actual training camp, the training days, which was a bit frustrating. We were only home for 4 days or something before we then went out to Cairo for the World Champs. During those 4 days I had my hair extensions taken out. It was the first time in 6 months I hadn't had them in. I hated it. It was fine for the rest of that day when I had them taken out, because it meant I could scratch my head, which I hadn't been able to do for ages. And yeah, I felt like quite light and airy. But I went to put my hair in a ponytail the next day and I nearly cried. My natural hair is so thin that I was just like, where's all my hair gone? I went out to Cairo without them in because I figured it was going to be hot out there. If I'd put them back in, I couldn't like tie it up yet. You have to wait a few days for the bonds to loosen enough before you can like tie it up. So I wouldn't have been able to tie it up for the first few days. Actually, this worked out all in my favour, to be fair. Yeah, I didn't have them in Cairo because I just didn't want to have to deal with it. Obviously, I've put them back in. Today, in fact. I headed out to Cairo actually feeling a bit better. I'd been trying to do some work on gaining a bit of confidence and just trying to figure out what to do, how to be me again, things like that. I feel like I made a bit of progress, and I was actually quite like happy going to Cairo. The air rifle went very well. I shot a new PB. I've done it in training plenty of times, but that's the first time I've shot over 630 in a match, which I was really happy with. I felt good doing it. I felt good like throughout the match. I've been really liking shooting air rifle over the last year or two. I've been really enjoying the process of shooting air rifle. So yeah, that 630 barrier, finally broken that, and that got me into the final in 4th place, which was really cool. A British person shooting air rifle in a World Championships final, it's pretty much unheard of. So yeah, well, dead chuffed with that. The final didn't go very well. I'm still I haven't shot a final for years, try to remember how to do that. I ended up 6th in the end. I just missed out on the quota place by like 1 place, 4 of the top 5, and I was 6th. Which was a little bit sad and a little bit frustrating, but also not super surprising. Yeah, it'll come, I'm sure. I then shot the prone, which didn't go well. I was really struggling with prone. I've found the wind very tricky on that range. I felt like the wind flags were very light, and I really struggled to tell like strength and direction on them. So yeah, the prone didn't go great. And then I got ill. As some of you will have seen. I was very unwell. In fact, I started to have a wee bit of pain in my tummy the day before the pre-event. Wasn't anything major. I then woke up on pre-event day feeling very unwell. Had a lot of pain in my tummy. I went to do pre-event. It was okay. I was really struggling to stand up straight to extend myself. So I was kind of jackknifed and couldn't like stand up straight. Really struggled with that. By that evening I was really very unwell, and by the next day I couldn't, there was no way I was going to be able to shoot the match, so I had to withdraw before I'd even shot the match, which was very frustrating. Later that day I ended up in the hospital, and they did some investigations and stuff, and then started the treatment the next day. They don't know what was wrong with me. I may have had a parasite or a bug or something, or it was possible I've got Crohn's disease as well as arthritis, and it's possible that it's my Crohn's, that I've had a parasite that set off my Crohn's. Don't know, but they put me through a full course of antibiotics, a full course of anti-bug stuff, and a full course of steroids. So I was not able to eat for about a week, so I've been very unwell. We tried to get me home early. I had to withdraw from the rest of the competition, so I missed the individual 3P, the mixed 3P, the individual 3P for 300 metre, the individual prone for 300 metre, and the mixed prone for 300 metre. So I got 4 events in and missed 5, which yeah was kind of devastating, especially given that I'd felt like I'd just made that sort of breakthrough and remembering how to do what it is I'm supposed to do. So yeah, that was a bit of a bummer. They flew me home a few days early, and we were supposed to fly home on the Monday night, but our flight got cancelled, so we ended up going home the next day via Munich to Manchester instead of to London to Edinburgh. Actually saved us a few hours of driving, because we were going to have to drive home from London because there weren't any flights. So we ended up going Munich, Manchester, and then driving back to Edinburgh from Manchester. So yeah, that's where we are now. I'm still not 100%. I'm eating again, which is positive. But yeah, I think it's going to be quite a long recovery, unfortunately. I'll keep you posted on what happens, but I'm sort of getting there. I'm very tired and quite drained, but yeah, it's ongoing. Start of November, some of you will have seen that I graduated yesterday. I got my master's degree. I didn't expect to feel quite so like chuffed with it. When I'd finished it, I was kind of like, okay, cool, you did it. It was a hard degree, at least the end part. Most of it was online. I did it from a different city. I didn't really know anybody in my class. I found the dissertation process very, very difficult. So it was hard. But yeah, yesterday while I was graduating, I was really chuffed with myself. So I was really happy. And yeah, now we're at the start of November. I am doing a social media detox. I have deleted Instagram and Facebook from my phone, as well as Pinterest, anything that I can scroll on basically. I've become increasingly attached to my phone over the last few years, and I don't like it, so I'm doing something about it. I'm going to knuckle down and really get some work done on the business stuff, try and get all my qualifications done and everything before the end of the year. Try to be a wee bit more consistent on posting videos and things. Yeah, just creating a bit of a routine, trying to be healthier, trying to heal, physically, emotionally, mentally, working on myself and my shit. Yeah, so you probably won't see me on social media for about a month or so. I'll probably still post videos if I actually make them. I'll still be posting on my business account, but it will be during work hours and it will only be done at work. I won't be on it at home, and it'll be from my laptop, not my phone. So yeah, that's the plan. That's where I'm at. Thank you very much for watching, if you've made it all the way through that. Sorry for the roller coaster. I don't like complaining, I guess, because somebody's always got it worse, but that's my life, I guess, at the moment, and I just have to live with it. So yeah, thank you for watching. Hopefully I'll see you next week sometime. Stay tuned. Enjoy your weekend. Have a lovely time. Enjoy the fireworks if you're watching the firework displays or anything like that. So yeah, thanks guys. Bye.